We would also like to thank the Department of Tourism for sponsoring the tour that will commence this afternoon, for the shirts and the caps, and also the liaison officers to make sure that you will enjoy your Intramuros tour. Also, we would like to thank US Ignite, represented by Team Brewer. Thank you very much, sir. Can we all give him a hand, please? Of course, US Ignite. And also Investing on Women, represented by Miss Lucy Lazo. Thank you very much, ma'am. Okay, now this time for the city tour. These are the announcements. Number one, please bring your shirt and caps that I believe were distributed yesterday. If you still do not have this, you may approach our secretariat. Also, please bring your own any lotion for your sun protection lotion, and of course your bottled water. Please make sure that you will be at the West Wing exit of the hotel. I'll repeat that, West Wing exit of the hotel. This is near the parking area. You should be there by 1 o'clock. What time? Where? Great job. West Wing exit near the parking area. Okay? So, and please do not leave without your giveaway, the soaps. You will make sure that it is with you before you leave the conference. This is the third day and it all came by so fast. But do not worry, because we will help you remember it, okay? To everyone, please focus your attention on the screen as we will now play the video that will show you everything that transpired in these 3 wonderful days. Let us all enjoy this. There. Now, I have one correction. This last souvenir that you will be receiving, they are not soaps. Even better, they are chocolates. So, it's lime or calamansi chocolates. So, although chocolate is also good for your skin, but I'm sure you would want to have it eaten. So, you will be receiving lime or calamansi chocolates from the Department of Tourism. Okay, so I will now be calling once again the Deputy Executive Director for Operations, PCW, Ms. Maria Christine Josefina G. Balmes. Ma'am.
So I think we all enjoyed seeing our faces on screen today. Okay, so now for the last part of our program, the ways forward for the AEC, may I call on stage Ms. Emeline Versosa, the ACW Philippines Focal Point and Executive Director of the PCW. Ms. Sita Sumrit, the Assistant Director, Head of ASEAN Secretariat Poverty Eradication and Gender Division, which will be the representative of the ACW. In behalf of Ms. Hati Minduk. Also, may I call on our chairperson, the chairperson of the Philippine Commission on Women, Dr. Rodora Bukoy. And lastly, the Undersecretary of the Department of Trade and Industry, Undersecretary Zenaida Maglaya. To start this section, I would like to call Ms. Emeline Versosa for the ways forward.
Thank you very much, Deputy Director Christine. So, good morning. We've come to the end of our 2.5-day conference. And how has it been? Good? Yes, thank you. I'm sure you're all wondering where we will bring all these recommendations and suggestions. And so our task for this morning is to track what are our ways forward. So we've been listening to all your very good suggestions and recommendations, and I have great faith and trust that what you have learned in this very short 2.5-day, like Gender 101 or ASEAN 101, for those who have not been in any ASEAN meeting, that you will carry within your own respective spheres, whether it is within your own unit, in your ministry, or within your ministry, in your ASEAN member state or country, and then hopefully in your sectoral body, given the mandates that you have said that you can't do a lot if you don't have mandates from above. So what we've tried to do is to summarize. We've seen common threads from all the reports, and this is what we've gathered. All throughout the discussions, even from day one, during the open forum, everybody was saying that there should be more cross-sectoral and cross-pillar collaboration. And this has been articulated actually by mandates that our leaders have already approved in November last year. And I'm not sure if it was again reiterated in Vietnam by the leaders meeting, because I wasn't there. I wasn't involved. But if you recall, the context of our coming together in this 2.5 days is to realize or to operationalize the ASEAN Declaration on the Gender Responsive Implementation of the ASEAN Community Vision 2025 and the Sustainable Development Goals. And we've had inputs on that. And I'm happy to note that in the timelines, you have some of your sectoral, some of your outputs have actually tracked that by 2025, there should be some concrete things that need to be done. In this ASEAN Declaration, it is really clear that there should be more cross-sectoral and cross-pillar collaboration. The ASEAN Declaration on the Role of Civil Service as a Catalyst for Achieving the ASEAN Community Vision 2025 was an initiative under, what's the acronym? ACC sectoral body on civil service matters under the ASCC, which was spearheaded by the former DSG of ASCC, Alicia Bala, who's now the head of our Civil Service Commission. So she was able to get that declaration signed by all our leaders, not just adopted in a list of documents adopted by the leaders. So it's really a very, I should say, a stronger document or mandate because our leaders have actually signed into this. And because we are all civil servants, government workers in our own respective member states, we have a mandate to really be the catalysts for achieving the community vision through a good governance track, which means strong consultations with our stakeholders, including the private sector, the civil service, the civil society organizations, and if possible, at the community level, our grassroots. And it also talks about cross-sectoral and cross-pillar. And then the third one is an output of the ASEAN Women's Business Conference, which was done in August last year, which focuses on the AEC pillar, which is the Action Agenda on Mainstreaming Women's Economic Empowerment in the ASEAN. And I'm talking to the co-organizers, because we hosted this, co-organizer of the Women Business Council and AWEN were present in that meeting, and they said that they are very happy that their voices are being heard among the AEC community, or we say family. Now, the other common threads that we saw and that we heard in your recommendations are create a gender unit or a core committee in the AEC, and that's, I think, that'll be up to the ASEAN Secretariat, at the ASEAN Secretariat level, if there is a unit there, or at the sectoral level, if that can be a proposal within your own respective sectoral bodies. Also common was creating guidelines for gender mainstreaming in the ASEAN. I have heard that in the proposals for funding, which go through ASEAN Secretariat, there are criteria for projects to be approved. And there is a gender criteria, but we're not sure if it's actually being monitored or being taken seriously. And so, again, this is a reiteration that when we have our own respective projects that we are seeking funding from our dialogue partners or from the ASEAN Secretariat, that these gender criteria must actually be seriously taken into consideration. If not, if it can be reviewed and strengthened if it is not strong enough. Then, of course, for us to be able to move forward, we need to be able to have sex disaggregated database. I think all sectoral bodies mentioned this so that we can track where the women are, whether they're advancing or not. And alongside with that is capacity building on gender analysis, gender mainstreaming. We are not starting from zero. There is a big pool of gender experts from the dialogue partners, from ADB, whom we heard yesterday, from the US network, from the Philippines. We have our own national gender resource pool. I'm sure they can cross to the ASEAN, di ba no, Narlene, who is in charge of our gender resource pool. They can be tapped, but also creating a gender resource pool with sectoral expertise, and that will be coming from you. So if you're the sectoral experts, if you take on, it's easier to take on the gender perspective than gender generalists who will have to study your particular sectors. So that's another track that we can move into. Then identify gender champions per sector. And we also heard that there should be more women in leadership and decision-making positions within the particular ministries and particular sectors. Continue the knowledge sharing of good practices on gender mainstreaming. And because the work of gender mainstreaming is on social transformation, changing social norms, it's very important to make use of all media available, not just the traditional media, but social media and other forms of information dissemination. And for us to move forward, financial support. I know there's only Tim here for US Ignite. I'm sure he's listening very intently. But there's also a representative, Lucy Lasso is actually representative of Investing in Women, Australia. And you have networks with the other dialogue partners, and ASEC is also here, so that that can be taken care of. If not, our own government resources, like this conference is actually under the auspices of our own government of the Philippines with assistance from our dialogue partners. So where's the map? Now, is it okay that these recommendations that we have put will be called our gender mainstreaming action plans? Is that okay? So it sticks to us, our GMAPs. We talked about our GMAPs. Is that fine? Yes? Stronger? Not so sure? GMAPs, we just concocted in gender mainstreaming action maps, yeah? Here, gender mainstreaming action maps. These are a compilation of what you just reported earlier. Now, where's the map? Oh, I'm sorry. Gender mainstreaming action plans, or GMAPs. Okay, and we have tried to map where this is going to go. So, this is an initiative of the focal point of the Philippine focal point under the ASEAN Committee on Women, down below, ACW. I will give this to the ACW chair, who currently is Vietnam, and now represented by CETA, because Madam Ha Thi Min Duc, who is the current representative of the ACW, had to leave today, and she will forward it, baliktad yung arrow, forward it to the, I think the arrow should be moving up to the ASEAN Ministerial Meeting on ASEAN Ministerial Meeting on Women, AMMW. That's a minister represented by my chairperson here, of course, because Vietnam is the chair, that's a minister. And then, as I heard through consultations, at the ministerial level, they will, through the ASEAN Secretariat, forward it to the ASEAN economic ministers, who will give the mandate to the senior officials, senior economic officials meeting, correct? SEOM, and then who can also direct the other sectoral bodies that you represent to implement the recommendations, all right? And then, since we invited AWEN and some private sector and CSOs here, and they appreciated the dialogue, we see to it that their voices are heard at the ASEAN. And since in the action agenda on women's economic empowerment in ASEAN, it says there that AXME should also listen to the private sector, not just to ABAC, but to the voices of women. So we try to facilitate also how private sector involved in economic practices can be heard in the various sectoral bodies. Okay, yes. And then lastly, there's one more. That's it? Okay, I think the other area that we heard that where do all the three pillars talk to each other? And there is this joint consultative committee where the CPRs, the country, CPR, country, so, see, it's really an alphabet soup here. The country permanent representatives of our respective AMS, they meet. And they also, they meet with DSGs and the SGs and all the other together. And I think that's where they can also discuss cross-pillar collaboration and coordination. Okay. Sounds sound, right? Yeah? Yeah, okay, thank you. So with that, where's Christine? You will call
Okay, in this part of the
Yeah.
program, I would like to call on stage to assist Ms. Emeline Versosa in submitting the GMAPs to our AMMW representative, our ACW representative and our ASEAN representative. May I call on the reporters of Trade and Investment, Monitoring and Evaluation and Statistics, Digital Economy, MSMEs, Agriculture and Forestry, Finance, Science, Technology and Innovation, Tourism, Minerals, Energy and Transportation, and Competition and Consumer Protection. Again, Mr.
Come up, all those.
Come up
yeah.
on stage.
All those who
Ms.
reported,
Padilla Baharin,
Yeah.
Ms. Rahaman, Mr. Kosovan, Ms. Lynn, Ms. Salomon. Everyone, please go on stage.
All those who reported.
Yeah, Ms. Taan, Mrs. Shanita, Ms. Ong, Mr. Chinmang, and Mrs. Yaya, and Mr. Pisetkul. Everyone, please join Ms. Versosa on stage. Yes. And may we request that 3 representatives to please stand up to receive the GMAPs. Yes. And let us do the ASEAN handshake. Right over left. Right over left. Right over left. Okay, thank you very much. Now, Ms. Emeline Versosa will formally submit the GMAPs. Okay. No more. Thank you very much, everyone. May we request all the reporters to please go down the stage. Now, may we call on Ms. Sita Sumrit, the head of the ASEAN Secretariat, Poverty Eradication and Gender Division, to deliver the message of the ACW.
Thank you very much for having me here. Actually, the key message from ACW Chair is for me to say whatever, because we believe in the same thing, which is gender equality. So I would like to first thank the PCW, the very champion of gender equality in ASEAN. And also I would like to thank my ASEAN Secretariat colleagues, Miguel, who has been very sick, but stays with us all along, and also the AEC colleagues for paying for the wine last night, and also for opening up and for joining us here at the Gender Mainstreaming Conference for AEC. We already had one for ASCC, and the upcoming one will be for APSC. I have 4 quick points to make here. So the first one is, I would like to bring us a bit back on the question of why. Why are we doing gender mainstreaming in the AEC? I know that many of you think that the economy is gender neutral. But if you look at the economy, it's the social structure. There's no such thing as energy, tourism, or trade without people. And because we are people, we have our own gender and sex. The economy can only be run by economic actors, and economic actors have different gender, men, women, and that's why we need to address the needs from different economic actors. Purchasing power, what about women who don't have purchasing power, right? Or all these economic decisions, it doesn't happen in vacuum, it happens in the gender structure. And that's why this is 101 feminist economics, but I really want to get into the why are we doing this. So that's the first point. And also, I know we are talking a lot about the mandates of doing gender mainstreaming in the AEC. For SCC, it's in our DNA. We talk about gender, people, vulnerable groups. But for AEC, what we have is actually the ASEAN vision, which talks about inclusiveness, which talks about the peoples, plural, of ASEAN, which include women as well. So that is the very key mandate for us to really work on gender mainstreaming in whatever pillars. And again, about the why, I don't think this is a divisive exercise to divide men and women. It's the inclusive process to bring us together, whether it's the socio-cultural initiatives or economic initiatives, or the next one will be political and security. So if we have this understanding, I think we will feel that this is what we need to do, not because Miguel and I are from the gender division, but I think we really want to create the appreciation of the whole gender issue. And for the how, I think Surya already talked about the recommendations for ASEAN Secretariat. But I would like to highlight that for the how, we have a number of layers, a number of things that needs to be done. For ASEAN Secretariat, we still have to continue to build our own capacity on gender mainstreaming so that we can preach the gender mainstreaming issues, but can also support our sectoral bodies in doing the, in mainstreaming gender. And also we have to continue to do the campaign, advocacy, and awareness raising within the organization as well. Because as ASEAN Secretariat, I don't think we have not all of us have the understanding of how to do gender. And I think that needs to be done. And of course, there will be resistance. There will be like, okay, why we have to do this? We don't have time. We're already busy with our work. So that's why I think this is a continuous process within the ASEAN Secretariat. If that change happens, I think it will be much easier. And the second layer is at your level, senior officials meeting, ministerial level meetings that we have to support and influence. It hasn't been easy neither for the SCC, even if we thought like, okay, SCC people would understand gender. It took a lot of efforts from ASEAN Secretariat to really talk to them, to make them open up. But it's encouraging that a number of sectors, including disaster management, rural development and poverty eradication, and social welfare, now they are they're opening up, and then they would like to engender or mainstream gender into their next work plans and the current work plan as well. So that is the level, but I think what we are trying to achieve here is for the implementation at the people level. I mean, gender mainstreaming can be abstract, but what we want to really create is the impactful changes at the people level, whether it's the small holders in the context of agriculture, or whether it's the business women or businessmen actually in the more macro context. And then the third point that I would like to mention here is that there are a number of issues from this conference that we would like to take forward, including the issue of unpaid care work. I think as women or as men who have perhaps been doing the unpaid care work would understand, and this is the issue that needs to be addressed systematically in the ASEAN level to really have a complete picture that when we talk about economics. It's not only productive sector, but it also the reproductive sectors, which is what is going on in the home. It's about raising children and all this. And those activities have economic values, but those activities have not been recognized. And mostly in the ASEAN countries, those activities are done by women. Increasingly, there have been platforms for us to address this issue. In October this year, the third MMW, ASEAN Ministerial Meeting on Women, we already published the joint statement, I think. The joint statement also highlights the cross-sectoral collaboration, but also it calls for the understanding of intersectionalities, which mean the diversities of women. Even if we talk about gender mainstreaming and women, we don't have one group of women. We have women with disabilities, rural women, different groups of women. And I think this will be the way forward in the context of gender mainstreaming and empowerment of women. And ASEAN Secretariat, we are also trying to promote this more nuanced understanding of what we mean when it comes to women economic empowerment. That was the first ASEAN-EU dialogue on gender equality, focusing on gender in the world of work. And the next one will be next year. We're still formulating the ASEAN-EU dialogue on gender equality, and we hope that from this meeting, the AEC people will join us. It's an open dialogue, but we haven't had representatives from AEC for the first one, or some, I'm not quite sure, but the next one, it will be more cross-sectoral. We will be reaching out to you for the next ASEAN-EU dialogue on gender equality, and we welcome also the suggestion on how we can decide the dialogue in such a way that can also benefit all of you, especially in the context of capacity building and increase the appreciation of the issue. And then lastly, I think from ASEAN Secretariat side and from ACW chair, we stand ready to support the sectoral bodies on the efforts to gender mainstream. I know that we are somehow bureaucrats, but I would envision our roles to be more of the advocates for what we believe in. Go beyond being secretariat and be something that can really support the sectoral bodies in not only gender mainstreaming, but ASEAN vision is really big, and we want to be part of that. So with that, I would like to again thank the PCW and my colleagues and everyone for being here to support the gender mainstreaming. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Sita Sumrit. Now may we call on the representative from the AMMW, the chairperson of the Philippine Commission on Women, Dr. Rodora Bukoy.
Thank you very much, Sita, for that synthesis and reminder of what we will do in the next years. Let me reiterate our profound thanks to those who have made this conference possible. The senior officials and representatives from the sectoral bodies, please rise. Please rise and let's give them a big round of applause. You don't like to stand up. AWEN and CSO representatives, ASEAN Secretariat, US Ignite, represented by Mr. Tim Burr. Investing in Women Australia, represented here by Ms. Lucy Lazo. Our co-sponsors, very rich sponsors, Philippine Charity Sweepstakes, Department of Tourism, for your very beautiful conference bags, souvenir items, and the city tour. And of course, last but not the least, the very dynamic, untiring staff of the Philippine Commission on Women. A big round of applause for the Philippine Commission on Women staff and secretariats. Of course, Ms. Mien has summarized the way forward, but let me reiterate here that on a personal note, I have heard and seen your enthusiasm, as well as your dynamism and your commitment to make real our goals in the God Mainstreaming Action Plan. I would like to appreciate the male God champions who came out and articulated their support for God mainstreaming towards gender equality and women empowerment, even if you called us aunties and nannies, suggesting maybe our senior status. I would like to thank you for your very brave recommendations, even targeting your dialogue with the top officials and changing cultural barriers that you see as obstacles towards gender mainstreaming. I will be conveying personally your recommendations as representative to the AMMW and do active engagement with the people at the AMMW to ensure that these plans of action would become real in the lives, especially of the marginalized women. Thank you very much, and we treasure your participation in this ministerial conference on gender mainstreaming in Manila, Philippines. Daghang salamat at mabuhay po tayong lahat.
Thank you, Director Bukoy. Just to clarify some concerns regarding the GMAPs that was presented by Executive Director Versosa on stage a few minutes ago. These are only proposals and are still to be validated by your respective sectoral bodies. So, on that note, we will now go to the closing remarks. And after 2.5 days of being here, we would like to call on stage to give her closing remarks the Undersecretary of the Department of Trade and Industry, Undersecretary Zenaida C. Maglaya.
Thank you very much. To the from representative of the ASEAN Secretariat, Dr. Sita Samrit, Assistant Director and Head of the Poverty Eradication and Gender. To the representative and members of the ASEAN Committee on Women. Of course, to our chairperson of the Philippine Commission on Women, Dr. Rodora Bukoy. Executive Director of the Philippine Commission on Women, Emeline Versosa. Colleagues from the Philippine Commission on Women and the various national government agencies, as well as the private sector, AWEN, US, Ignite, and to the very enthusiastic senior officials from the 10 ASEAN member states and representatives from the ASEAN sectoral bodies, the ASEAN Secretariat. A pleasant morning to all of you. Morning. This is the challenge of one who gives the closing. I was just listening to, and I'm glad that I was able to catch the presentation of the discussions and output of the breakout sessions. And of course, from the synthesis and from all the discussions, hardly, as I was listening, there's nothing left to say. But please bear with me because I think I was given a few minutes. But let me just say that it is really a pleasure that I speak in front of individuals united for the same purpose. Men and women who are here talking about gender mainstreaming. The theme gender mainstreaming in the ASEAN community is indeed an important development agenda that we need to discuss among ourselves as policymakers and enablers in the ASEAN region. In fact, according to the report by the McKinsey Global Institute in 2018, Southeast Asia could boost its collective gross domestic product, or GDP, by $370 billion a year by 2025 if the existing gender disparity is eliminated. Likewise, according to the International Labor Organization, or ILO, every country in Asia Pacific can achieve at least 5% higher GDP from accelerating progress towards gender parity. Can you just imagine how much we've been losing all these years just because of the cost of gender inequality? Presently, studies show that 36.4% of the regional GDP in Southeast Asia is contributed by women. This percentage, however, failed to consider the economic value that women's unpaid care works create. In the Asia Pacific, where women spend 4 times more unpaid care work than men, women are hindered from getting into and advancing in the labor force. This issue is only one of the many that were discovered but did not amply reach or even catch the attention, and no action taken by relevant individuals who can really cause a stir in the current make of things. Individuals who can really cause, that is why I have high hopes for everyone here today to be the person who will significantly contribute to renewing the system towards gender equality. Earlier on, the way forward was presented, and there was this GMAPs. And this is a proposed gender mainstreaming action plan. And I think what we have to do now is go over this again and see what projects, what programs can each of us in our countries when you go back, what is it that can be done? What projects, what initiatives can be done as guided by a framework that we call the GMAPs? We have to translate these concepts and theories into practice. This is where gender mainstreaming comes into picture. We need to look into the factors that surround all this and find ways and analyze, investigate the existing gaps, why these gaps exist, whether they are potential impediments to achieving results, and the action to take to address the gaps and accomplish the objectives of gender equality. And I saw from the output of all the panel breakout sessions that these were all identified. So we just have to, I guess, really sit down and really think of what projects and what initiatives and deliverables we can really commit to as a region in ASEAN. Indeed, we have to keep up with the momentum we have created. As the millennials term it, you cannot unsee this. I hope that you take time to reflect on the new perspectives that you have just learned, and when you go back to your respective economies, cascade this and see this through. Once again, I would like to commend each and every one for the time that you've spent and for being here and being dedicated and shown the passion on gender mainstreaming. Keep that passion and keep the fire burning. Thank you very much, and good morning.
Thank you so much. We have come to an end of our 3-day conference. And in behalf of everyone, the speakers, the organizers, PCW, we would like to thank you all. And I guess the best way to end it is to just clap, appreciating your seatmates, the organizers, the speakers, our panelists. Thank you all, and we hope to see you again. Mabuhay, everyone!